Nina. Thanks so much for joining me today for a new video where we're going to do some layered stamping with some kitchen sink stamps. This is the giant sunflower set, and it's a really pretty set. Comes with all the pieces that you need to build a lifelike and dimensional sunflower with just some ink. It's a really simple process, and I'm going to show you how I created this mini slimline card using some of the stamped images that I created from this set. To start off with, I have the set here, and you can see it already comes with an alignment guide, which is really helpful in arranging your stamps. I'm pulling out a variety of Simon Says stamp inks in yellows and greens, because of course we're building a sunflower here. And we're going to start by stamping the base layer of the sunflower first. Then I'll work on the leaves. I decided because I wanted to cut these sunflowers out, there aren't coordinating dies, but I am going to fussy cut them. I wanted to go ahead and make a whole bunch of them all at once. So by aligning my cardstock, this is Simon Says Stamp 120-pound white cardstock, I'm lining that up in the corner of my MISTI, and I've already arranged my stamp where I want it to stamp on my paper on the door of the MISTI. Then I can bring my ink up the stamp. In this case, I'm using lemon chiffon ink, and I can stamp that, and it'll stamp in the exact same place on every single sheet of paper that I want to stamp on. Then when I'm ready to add the second layer, I'll bring that alignment guide in place. I'll hold it down with my bar magnet just to make sure it doesn't slide around too much. And then I can lay the next layer of my stamp on top of the alignment guide to make sure that my placement is perfect on that first layer of stamping. Once I have the placement ready, I can go ahead and pick up that stamp on the door of my MISTI, and then I will be able to stamp on every single sheet that I've already stamped the base layer. I can now stamp the second layer right over top, and it's going to be perfectly aligned on every single image. So now I'm going to use lemon ZING ink. These are all Simon Says stamp inks. And I'm going to repeat the exact same process by putting my paper in the corner of the MISTI and then inking up my stamp and stamping it over top of the first layer. Next is the third layer. This is the detail and the shadows of our beautiful sunflower. So I'm going to go ahead and, just like I did before, line this up over top of the alignment guide. There are little marks on different areas of the alignment guide to help you kind of make sure that you're getting this perfectly centered on top of the flower. And then you'll just peel the alignment guide off of the stamp. And now you're ready to go ahead and continue stamping that third layer. And this layer we're going to stamp in sunshine ink. This is a really nice, rich yellow. It looks a little harsh to begin with, but that's because Simon Says stamp inks dry back into the paper. So it's going to look a little bit drastic right now, but as this dries, it's going to absorb into the paper, and the ink is going to soften out really nicely, and we're going to have some really beautiful dimension here. The final layers of the sunflower itself are the centers. So I'm going to start with some brown ink. This is dark chocolate, and I'll ink that up and stamp this right into the center of my sunflower. Then I'm going to bring in the shadow area of the sunflower, and I'll stamp that over top of all of the brown centers. And just like we've done with everything else so far, we're repeating this same stamping across all the sheets of paper I'm stamping on, because of course I want to create multiple flowers. And by doing all of the stamping in an assembly line way like this, it's really helpful, and it makes the stamping process a lot faster because I'm not having to clean my stamps continuously in between each layer and then moving on to the next flower and repeating the same process. This makes it super simple and easy. So I stamped that detail layer of the center in some black ink that was Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. And now it's time to stamp the leaves. There are 3 layers of the leaf, and we'll start first with Jellybean. Again, repeating the multi-stamping process with this also because I want multiple leaves for this image as well. Then I'll go ahead and bring in some FERN ink. This is the second detail layer. I'll line that up. You could, of course, use the alignment guide, but the leaves were pretty easy to line up, and I found that I didn't need to use that when I was setting up the leaf. I'll go ahead and stamp all of the fern layers, and then finally we'll bring in Evergreen, which is a really nice, rich dark green, and I did end up stamping that twice to get a really dark impression with my third and final layer. So I always encourage you, when you're working with layering stamps like this and you need a little bit more oomph into your stamping, try adding a second layer because it really does make a difference. And when you use a high quality paper like Simon's 120-pound white, it can take all that ink beautifully. So you can see my flowers on the left there. I'm bringing in a floating leaves stencil from Simon Says Stamp. This is a nice large 6x9 stencil, which is perfect for larger cards such as mini slimlines or regular slimline. And I'm going to lay this on top of my mini slimline card base. And I'll just use some Simon Says Stamp Lemon Zing ink to just add a little bit of blending through this stencil just so I get a nice little bit of detail on my card. You're not going to see much of this after the card is finished, and that's because the flowers are going to get layered on top of here. But what it is going to do is it's going to provide a little bit of color behind them, and it's going to also add just some texture to the card base. So it's a small detail, but it does make a difference in the end. All right, we're ready to assemble our flowers. I have them pre-arranged on my card where I want them generally, and I'm bringing in some foam tape to adhere them down. If you didn't want this to be a dimensional card, you could have glued these down with our Simon Says Stamp Dot Runner or our Craft Tacky Glue, something other than foam tape for a little bit more of a flatter effect, but I really love dimensions, so that's why I chose to use foam tape here. And I'll just tuck the leaves around the flowers just to get the arrangement finished up, and those leaves really add some nice contrast to all the yellow that we have here. We're not quite done yet with the flowers though. We want to add a little bit of detail to them. I brought in some Distress Mica Flakes from Tim Holtz. I'm going to use some glossy accents and just add little areas of adhesive here and there across the flower centers and also on portions of the leaves. This way I can sprinkle a little bit of those mica flakes over top of that liquid adhesive, which will hold them down, but it also will dry clear so that you won't see any of that liquid through these clear mica flakes. When this dries, this creates a really beautiful, sparkly effect that's very subtle, and I really love how it looks. It kind of reminds me of dewdrops on a flower in the early morning. I'm pulling out a sentiment here now from the All About You stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. It's a newer sentiment set that we have, and I'm going to stamp this onto some dark chocolate cardstock. I'll use a powder tool to prep the surface before I stamp it with my embossing ink, because I do plan on heat setting this with a bit of white embossing powder. So I'll sprinkle that on and then go ahead and set that with my heat tool. Once I have that completely melted, I will use my fine tip scissors to fussy cut the sentiment out. And like I mentioned earlier, that's exactly what I did for the flowers too, because there aren't coordinating dies for this set, and I wanted these flowers to be cut out, so I just used my fussy cut scissors to help me do that. My final embellishment was to add a few gems from Lucy's cards. These are really pretty domed pearls, and I think these look just so beautiful. I picked out colors that would really match nicely with these flowers. I used some gold, some green, and then a pop of teal just for a little bit of extra color. I don't want to distract from these sunflowers, so the teal is a nice pop of color that kind of goes really nicely between the green and the yellow, so it really finishes things off nice. After I glued my sentiment down, that completes my mini slimline card. I plan on mailing this in a lemon chiffon envelope from Simon Says Stamp. It matches up with our lemon chiffon ink really nicely and looks really good with this card all finished, and would be a perfect birthday card or a companion to a gift if you're giving a gift to someone. A lot of occasions you could make this card for somebody. I hope you were inspired by today's project and that you got to see how these layering stamps from the kitchen sink work. Many of their stamps are layering stamps. They're a really great company for that. Their stamps are extremely detailed and very pretty. All of their stamps come with the alignment guide, so it makes all of your stamping super simple and easy to do. And all you need to do is pick out your favorite colors and go to town stamping these really cool images. Thanks so much for tuning in. I will be back very, very soon with more inspiration for you. But until next time, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and also give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed. I'll see you soon. Have a very crafty and wonderful day. Bye!